people in our industry, if they want more, it's not just because they want to have more, it's because they want to give more. And I think that we rise up in influence so that we can rise up on impact.
Welcome to Shift, an exclusive podcast by DSN. I'm your host, Blake Mallon, and this is where high-performing entrepreneurs and experts share their most powerful shifts in mindset, skill set, and strategy to help you accelerate your business and amplify your impact. I challenge you to be present, open your mind, and let the shift begin. Welcome to Shift. I'm your host, Blake Mallon, and we have direct selling royalty on the show today. I'm going to warn you all up front. This is going to be different. This is going to be something special. Our story today is one of extraordinary resilience. Despite facing challenges like dyslexia, domestic violence, a painful divorce, she earned her MBA from Harvard University, then making the unexpected shift from the corporate executive world to entrepreneurship. Hear me on this. She rose to become the #1 sales director out of 3.5 million women across 40 plus countries in one of the largest and most respected direct selling companies globally. And she achieved that feat faster than anyone in the company's 50-year history. Today, she's an internationally renowned speaker, success strategist, sales trainer. She's author of the book Quantum Leaps, 10 Steps to Help You Soar, where she details the specific steps on how she absolutely crushed so many personal and team records throughout her career. She's graced the stages with Oprah, appeared on CNN, ABC, CNBC's The Big Idea, and has trained entrepreneurs just like you across 6 continents. Her mission: to move ambitious people from the ordinary to the extraordinary. She's often described as energy in motion, and I have a feeling we're going to get and feel some of that energy today. Please help me welcome to the show, Gloria Mayfield Banks. Gloria, how are you?
I'm doing so good, Blake. Thank you for the introduction. I absolutely love it. Sometimes when people read my intro, I'm like, are they talking about me? Well, let's hear it again. No. So I'm excited to be here with everybody. I truly am. Thank you for the invitation.
I mean, I am excited. I am honored, and this is going to be so fun. First and foremost, I mean, you perfectly are matching. Look at this color. Look at what you're wearing. We have the same Pantone going here. Did you know the colors of the show?
No idea. So I'm like loving your colors. I'm loving your colors because I love these colors. So that's beautiful.
You're looking beautiful. You were radiating. I appreciate your time. I know we were planning this show, and then I think you went on an African safari. Did you just get back?
31 days in Africa.
Oh, wow. Is that your first time there?
No, it's our 7th time there. Wow. So we've been there before, but never to this part of West Africa. And it was riveting. It was riveting to go for 31 days. My husband travels with a carry-on. That's a whole nother conversation.
Wait, 31 days on a carry-on? He did
31 days with a carry-on. Of course, when I opened up my luggage, some of his stuff was in my luggage. That's a whole nother talk show. But it was amazing. We went to Senegal, we went to Ghana, we went to the Ivory Coast, and then we returned and went back to Ghana for another 10 days. So it was really, really riveting.
Any close animal encounters?
No, but we saw the water buffalo, we saw the rhinoceros, we were up close with giraffe, we saw the monkeys. We saw zebras. We saw 6 zebras, 1 male, 5 women or female, and all of them were pregnant. And he was way over there like, I got nothing else happening over here. There's no other reason for me to talk to y'all. So he was like way over there. It was hilarious. We saw the emus. I mean, some of the strangest birds, hens ate out of our hands. It was, I love the animals. I love the weather. I love the heat. I love the fact that it's not overtaken by tourists. It's beautiful. It was beautiful and it was different. And I loved it. I'm campaigning for Africa now.
I mean, you're doing an amazing job. It's always been on my list. My wife and I, our family, we love to travel. I love.
It was 7 hours from New York to West Africa. 7-hour flight, super fast. We were like, we're here already. And even though you knew, but it was like, wow, so fast.
Well, it sounds like an absolute dream trip. I've never been, but I'm moving it up on my list after that experience share. So, Gloria, let's rewind real quick. So, dyslexia, Harvard Business School, and the absolute pinnacle of direct selling. Like, connect those dots for us. Would love to hear your story. Like, bring this together.
Some of the most important parts of my story, I think, is I grew up in Detroit, a Midwest city. It was fabulous growing up, middle class. My parents were very intentional about our self-esteem. So I can't thank them enough for that. 4 girls. We didn't see entrepreneurship anywhere in our background. No aunts, uncles, parents, nothing. All 4 of us are really strong, winning entrepreneurs in very different industries, but we all are. So in the 7th grade, they found out I was dyslexic. And the story goes, my mother and father were teachers at one time, but my mother's a teacher this time. And my teacher called her into, a consultation about me and said, there's something about Gloria, she gets it, but she don't really get it. Like, she don't really get it. So I had a hard time. I had a really very hard time. But if you find out about dyslexia, and I do talk a lot about it, most people that are dyslexic are very smart. They just don't know how to read. Like, reading is overrated. Tell people reading is overrated. Math is challenging. So anyway, I go through some special courses in high school. I excel when I'm given the opportunity to be trained correctly. I go on to college at Howard University in DC. I know when I'm at Howard, I love to work. I don't join any sorority or fraternity because they kept saying you wouldn't be able to work. And I was like, no, I like to work. So I had a part-time job at the grocery store. Every time they said, do you want overtime? My hand just stayed up all the time because I wanted overtime. So when my girlfriend, several years later, she called me, she said, Gloria, turn on Oprah. There's a show about workaholics. I'm like, girl, I ain't got time to watch a show about workaholics. I know I like to work. I just kept going. So anyway, I get a job with Polaroid. It's a great job. But after 2 years, I think I want more. So that's when I go back to Harvard Business School. And let me tell you something, Blake. When I was at Harvard, it was first the school itself earns its reputation appropriately. It is the hardest thing I've ever done in terms of education. Super, super hard. And I almost lost it because in the finance course, I just couldn't get it because it was numbers, it was reading, and it was speed. You had to read and do a written exam in 4 hours. So, but anyway, here's the big lesson I learned there. The big lesson was ask for help. There's so many people who want to help. And so for some reason, we don't want to ask for help. I thought it was going to get me in trouble. So anyway, I asked for help. He said, Gloria, you really do understand it. You just don't know how to articulate it back because of the time frame and the pressure, blah, blah, blah. So he helped me. I went on, finished that, ended up going to sell computers for IBM and became a top seller for IBM at that time, and then went on back to work for Harvard Business School. And in the middle of that, my girlfriend has a party and bam, there it goes. And it starts. And I can honestly tell you, I've always been an ambitious winner. So that's what this industry did for me. It brought out the natural desire to win in me. And from then on, I just started breaking records and I fell in love with breaking records.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your story and being so open about it. It made me think my son who's at school right now, he's 8 and today he has reading club, and reading club is what they call the extra special help. And we've had to get him the tutor a couple days a week and bright kid, but he's just struggling with that specific topic. So hearing your story and what you've done to overcome and then you said Harvard like it's nothing. I mean, it's Harvard, right? I mean, so you went from Harvard to the top of Polaroid, a large corporation, to direct selling. Take us to that moment when you walked out of a successful corporate career into this direct selling business. Did people think you were crazy?
Oh, okay. So let's say this. Everyone needs to know that anything you've done, anything different than the people that are around you, they think you're crazy. You want to move to a different part of town, they think you're crazy. You want to buy a new car, they think you're crazy. You want to get your hair cut, they think you're crazy. So that's our norm. And how you handle that norm is what makes a difference. I want to say this because we touched on it in a minute in terms of domestic violence. And I tell people I was in domestic violence for 10 years. And my very first day at Harvard Business School, it was with a black eye. I tell people that when they see me, they see a very smart, successful, ambitious woman with an optimistic attitude that was in domestic violence for 10 years. And the reason I talk about that so loudly, Blake, is I believe the number one challenge we have with domestic violence is silence. So if you can speak out about it loudly and not be afraid that you either have been a part of it or you've seen it or it's touched you in some way or someone that you know, it's important that we talk about that. But when I take that optimistic attitude, which kept me there for 10 years, it's going to be all right, I can fix it, and I transfer that over to a network marketing business, that same optimistic attitude that served me poorly in a domestic violence situation served me well in my career choice. And so when I tell people there's always a hard side and a light, a dark side is a dark side and a light when it comes to almost anything in life. So that was my story. And I didn't start network marketing to end up at the top. I didn't even start it to be really successful. I started it just to make a little extra money to keep my kids in daycare. We're 13 months apart. And if you knew my children, you would have given me the $200 a week. I just wanted to make a little extra because everyone was telling me that when I went through when I went through a divorce, that my life was going to change. And I didn't want their life to change. So I just started to make a little bit of extra. I did not know I needed fun. I didn't know I needed friends. I didn't know I needed excitement. I just knew I needed a little extra. So that's how I started, for just a little extra.
Well, such an inspiring story. So, on people that hear where you got in this career, I mean, it is the pinnacle. I mean, number one out of 3.5 million, and you got started just to support, right, as a mom supporting their kids for daycare. You never know, who's enrolling in your community. Just because you opened this up, and I felt your story when you said that silence is the enemy, and we never know who's listening to this show and what people are going through. What made you make that shift in that relationship after 10 years? Like what was the deciding factor that said enough is enough and you wanted to begin a new chapter? I'm just curious if you can take us there because we might learn something.
Like that was a great question because I tell people I wasn't strong enough to lead for myself. It was bad before I walked down the aisle, honestly. And I stayed in that for whatever reason. I couldn't lead for myself, but God woke me up in the middle of the night. He really did. And he said, if you don't get out of there, this is going to happen to your daughter when she graduates from prom. That's what I heard in my head. And in that moment, I woke up and said, I've got to do something different and I've got to do something. And I didn't know what to do because now I am a highly paid executive woman in a very public marketing management role. I'm traveling an hour to get to my job every day. And I'm working 60 to 70 hours with 2 small children and a non-supportive husband environment. So I was up to my eyeballs to even think I could take something else on. Everybody thought I was crazy about that. Like my sister, who also went to Harvard Business School, we're the only 2 African-American women sisters who've graduated from Harvard Business School. And she was saying to me, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I didn't say anything back to her because my thought process was, I'm smart. And if this is not what it's cracked up to be, I'm out of here, but I'm going to give it a shot. So that was what my head was at that time. I know that making extra money was going to make a difference for me. And that's where I was going for. But it didn't take me long to see that it was the environment that I really needed, more so than I needed the money. But I am one of those people that is inspired by extra income. And I always tell people, I'm not inspired from you to get more money just to have money. And it's not for the material things. I really do believe that when you make more money, you change the food you eat, the security that you live under, the stress is reduced because of the vacation time or the support, the help that you can get. I just don't think that some people understand that increased income changes massive decisions that you make, not just the extra beautiful things you can buy, which is what sometimes we show. Social media and all that kind of stuff shows those things, but it's the underlining things that happen for us. So for me, that's what happened. But to make that decision, the other thing I saw, because I started my network marketing journey right at the time that I was in the midst of making the decision about the divorce. So it's still back and forth, back and forth. What I saw were happy people. What I saw were people who were willing to tell their transparent stories. What I saw were people who had a lot going on and were willing to take on more. So what I want to be in my life is a role model, because I know what role models did for me. And so that made a major difference for me.
Well, Gloria, you are beyond a role model for many, many, many people. And thank you for speaking up on tough topics, right? To share what you've been through. And I think everybody can relate, whether it's a challenge of dyslexia or domestic violence or our own version of the stuff that we're in.
Right.
Your story is an inspiration. It's an inspiration. You know, you mentioned your beliefs around money, right? And that was some powerful statements on how you view money as a kind of a path to freedom. Did you always have that paradigm around money, or is that something you developed?
I think I developed it when I started building my team and needing to explain to people why this was important. I still think it's a topic that people don't speak enough about. I think it's not something that people really talk about, the positive things it can do for you relative to, you know, you can only buy so many new purses and so many new cars and so many new houses. It's not that. It's the freedom and the choices. It's also what you can do for people. You know, when we were over in Africa, we were able to put in a water system for a village, Blake, a village.
Wow.
And they were running over to us, thanking us profusely for giving them water. A water system. So it's these kinds of things that I believe people in our industry, if they want more, it's not just because they want to have more, it's because they want to give more. And I think that we rise up in influence so that we can rise up on impact. And that impact, you know, in this society we live in now is generated by the contribution you can give. And the contribution you can give is by what you can give away. And you can't give away if you're still under the category of what you need. You have to get past the need to get to the category where you have more than enough so that you can give without sacrificing, without your family being sacrificed. I heard this the other day. This was so good, Blake. Someone said, stop worrying if you're the family member that people come to borrow money. Just be glad you're not the one needing to borrow the money. I was like, oh, that's really good. You know, that's really good. But that paradigm shift that I had in the purpose of money and the purpose of increasing your income and the reason why you want to go beyond your fears, the reason why you want to go beyond your dreams, the reason why you want to go beyond what's comfortable, the reason why you want to be a leader that pushes other people beyond their comfort level is because of how it will literally change their decisions. And when you can change someone's decisions, you can change their journey.
I mean, so powerful. And I agree with you. It starts with kind of thinking bigger, right? Believing that it is possible, having a healthy belief system that you're giving us, right, around money and what it means. And I think that's what drives a lot of people into entrepreneurship, right? It's maybe not entrepreneurship for business sake, but it's entrepreneurship as a path or a vehicle to achieve what you're describing. I got to ask kind of a different topic, but I don't get to talk to people that graduated from like Harvard Business School. I don't think I have anybody in my social circle that graduated from Harvard. So my question, like, you have this perspective, like Harvard Business School, right? Then high level corporate executive, and now 3+ decades empowering entrepreneurs.
Yes.
What's your vantage point on just entrepreneurship as a topic? Like, have you seen shifts in what entrepreneurship means, people's perspective around it, where entrepreneurship is today? I'm just curious your perspective on the topic.
Yeah, that's a great question, because several people have asked me, did your education drive your success? And in a way, yes, but not in a way that it would hinder someone who doesn't have that education.
Okay.
If you're with me, I think all of us bring something to the table, and you have to embrace what's brought to the table. For me, I had the ability to analyze the companies and analyze companies. So when you're at Harvard, you spend 2 years, 2 intense years evaluating companies, all different kind of ways, the product, the process, the manufacturing, the finances, the executives. You know, what happens when executives die? What happens when they have to make a big decision? I don't know how many of you remember, but right when I was at Harvard Business School is when Tylenol had that disastrous situation when someone died because they took a Tylenol pill. Well, Tylenol came directly to Harvard Business School to the students and said, what should we do? Should we kill the brand of Tylenol? Should we come up with a new brand? So we analyzed it this way and all the other. And as we know today, Tylenol still sustained itself, but there was a process that they had to go through. So I brought that education to my ability to assess companies, assess recognition, assess the philosophy, assess the corporate staff. I could look deeper than maybe other people could look when they were deciding to go all in. So every time when I recognized that other people told me to be careful, it's because they didn't understand. People will tell you to be careful, like driving to New York if they've never driven to New York before. They will tell you to be careful to do different things. The be careful is really next to don't do it because they don't understand it. But because I understood it and because I believed that I would continue to evaluate as I built, as I went deeper, I would continue to evaluate. And I think that that was probably an advantage for me. When I went back to the school several years later, you see, I had studied my company when I was there as a student, and I did what other students do. You studied the company, you took the test, you forget about it. You go on to something new. So I studied the company. I knew what was going on. I went back to the school several years later. They did a case study on me. It's called Gloria Mayfield. And that study is trained in textbooks to many, many business schools worldwide. But they said to me, and they said in front of the classroom, this is what she does, and she will probably make more than most of you in this classroom because of what. So they evaluated the industry. They knew the industry, they knew the company, they knew all the things that we look at. So I had several people that I really understood their integrity and really understood their brilliance say that I was making a good decision.
Yep.
So that just helped me as well.
Well, a couple of really important points there, right? And I love how you kind of shifted our mindset around be careful, right? Or advice not to really as a lack of awareness or lack of education.
Right.
But you said something also really important that yes, your education helped you look at things maybe in a different way or a critical light, but you also said it wasn't something that was maybe required or mandatory. So my direct question for you, Gloria, today, like fast forward to today, do you think anyone and everyone can really become an entrepreneur if they want? And then what limiting beliefs do you see get in the way of people making that leap for themselves?
Limiting beliefs. Everybody has it. Probably 2 or 3 people I know who don't have limiting beliefs, but the majority of us have limiting beliefs at some path because there's always people who are bigger, who have done more. You know, I'm not Jeff Bezos. You know, it's just there are people that have done bigger things than me. So I think we all have them. But the characteristic you're looking for is how do you let your limiting belief stop you?
Okay.
How do you stop it from letting your courage muscle be strong? Because you have to have courage to create confidence, and confidence increase will give you better choices. So I think that if you put yourself in the right environment, that's why I tell people, put your body in the place and the space where it can be shifted. And that's why I've always thought events were important, and being around people who believe bigger than you and see bigger than you. It's your responsibility to know that you have to get there, because by yourself, you cannot grow your limiting beliefs. You have to borrow other people's belief until you have it inside yourself. And so I think that, can everybody be an entrepreneur? My answer to that is, it depends on how hard they're willing to change and try. I don't think change necessarily is hard. I think that they haven't looked hard enough at why they want to do something. We do a lot of things in our lives that are hard, but we don't dwell on that because we want the results so much. What's difficult becomes easy. I always tell this story. If your girlfriend calls you up and she says, girl, I am getting married and I want you to be in my wedding, you're like, oh, I am not going to be the overweight lover in the house. Okay. So all of a sudden, Snickers doesn't taste good. Ice cream doesn't taste good. Beach cobbler is not on your list anymore. You don't want those desserts. And yesterday, you just had to have it. You deserved it. I want it. Today, it is not even a part of your reality. So if you find the motivation, because people ask me sometimes, Gloria, what's more important? Is motivation more important or is discipline more important? I personally think motivation is more important because motivation will get you on the grind where discipline starts to sit in. But you can't get it going until you're truly motivated to do that. So can anybody be an entrepreneur? I really do believe that many people can be an entrepreneur. They're small, there's medium, and there's large. And a lot of it is determined by how much they're willing to learn, change, and grow.
So powerful. And I'm smiling as you talk about motivation, right? And I know you've been asked this a million times because I get asked this all the time. So I'm curious your answer to this, right? So let's say someone's listening, they're like, okay, well, I might want to be an entrepreneur. I want a path to that shifted perception around money and time freedom. I want to go to safari for the 7th time, right, with my family and friends and give more. But then there's always the question. The question always is, but Gloria, how do you stay motivated for so long? How do you get that motivation to have that courage? What's your answer when someone asks you that question of how you maintain that level of motivation?
Like, you're just good at this. I just want to let you know that you're really good at this. I think that the reason people lose their motivation is because they're not willing to pick a right now passionate goal. I think there's so much inside a right now passionate goal, not something that you're going to achieve in 3 years or 5 years, but can you get passionate about what's right in front of you? Can you get passionate about what's important for the next step? When you can learn to win and celebrate
I love that.
yourself and others in the next win, you don't get confused. Passion erases distractions.
Wow.
And we've seen it so many times where when you want to win something that you're passionate about, and it's not just winning. I tell people, if you have movers, we've all moved at one time. When you have the movers coming on May 1st and it's April 25th, you don't feel like it. You go to bed. I don't feel like packing. I don't feel like it. It's the 26th. It's going to happen. I don't feel like. On the 30th, you are up all night. You don't get tired. You don't think about you're not seeing your friends. You don't even want to eat. You're so busy packing, because the goal of the drivers showing up on May 1st erases any distraction of anything that might have stopped you before. You can find boxes at 2:00 in the morning if you need them bad enough. We've all been college students. You can find what you need. So if you ask me what stops people from being motivated, is they don't understand the magnitude of picking what's next.
We can feel when you talk, we can feel, and I'm sure this has been a part of your success, right, for so long. We can feel it's a passion. Like it's a passion. It's a purpose, right? It's not just something that you're doing. And I love the way you put it out into the world of just kind of a purpose for helping, the ordinary become extraordinary.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a requirement? Because I meet people, I identify with that, Gloria. Like I'm mission driven, purpose driven. Like I have a hard time doing something I'm not passionate about, but I have met people that can compartmentalize. They're like, I'm going to do this over here because I love it, but I'm going to do this thing over here and call it work to make money. Do you think in this space or in entrepreneurship in general, do you think that we have to tie our passion or our purpose in what we do? Do you think that's a secret to your success?
Yes. And let me tell you why. I think that passion is required for growth.
Mm-hmm.
So you use the word success, which is different than doing something. You can do anything. I mean, you can do a lot of things. You can do things. But if you want to be successful at that, you have to be passionate enough to go at it in the hard times, when you don't win, when you don't like people, when your emotions start to frustrate you or people start to frustrate you, something doesn't go right, it doesn't look good, your faith has to kick in. You know, there's a lot of components. Family, let's talk about family. I was married with 2 small kids. Then I was a single parent for 7 years. Then I took them on vacation to Disney because, you know, you don't get Mother of the Year if you don't take your children to Disney. So I take them to Disney. I meet my husband, Ken. We have a long distance relationship for 6 years. We get married. We're getting ready to celebrate 28 years of marriage.
Oh, congratulations.
But thank you. With a blended family of 4 and 5 grandchildren. So it's, you know, life is like this. And we can't talk about success without talking about how it affects your family and how you have to pivot and turn. But you can quickly go back to the interruptions that families, friends, dynamics, life, weather, blah, blah, blah. You can get back on track if you're clear. And clarity comes from a passionate place that you know you want to get to. So can you do it without passion? Yeah, you can do it. But I don't know many, if any, successful people who really calibrate what they describe as success without backing it with some form of passion.
So what advice would you give to the person right now that's just having a hard time finding their purpose or their passion in what they're doing? What advice do you give? Okay,
so first I tell them, you have to know whether you're in passion or not. And everyone doesn't stay in passion 100%. It's important. You know, we're not saying that you stay at that level like every single day, all day long. No, but you do have to know that you're not in passion if you can't wait to go to bed and you don't want to get up in the morning. People who like, oh, I need one more half minute. You know, give me a half an hour, give me an hour, you know, just one more second. And they jump out of bed because at night they got ideas and they want to implement them in the morning. That's a high form of passion. I tell people, if you're not sure, ask those who are closest to you. Ask the people who've watched you and ask them, what do you like? What is that you talk about all the time? Where is it that you find you want to make a difference? When you can have other people help you identify for yourself. You know, you always talk about travel, or you always talk about children, or you always talk about seniors, or you always talk about gardening, or you always talk about decorating. What is it that you really love to do that maybe you don't know that's your passion because you didn't have the income or the confidence to go towards it, but it's something you like. It's got to be something that you like. It's got to be drawn out of you sometime if you don't know how to pick it out yourself. And then you pick how to make a difference. You guys, you can create passion out of, I want another couch and I want to pay for it a certain way. You can create, I remember helping a woman. She was really strong. We're in church together and she does sign languaging. And so we just end up talking. She's in direct selling as well. She had gotten to a strong mid-level, but she wanted to pop up to stronger. And she didn't know how to create her passion. So I started asking her about her life. And she started telling me about it. She has a sister, and her sister lives in Northeast, and her sister has 4 kids, and they really want a house, but they haven't been able to create a house, and they don't never go on vacation. And we kept talking. I said, well, why don't you pay for their vacation? I said, no, really, like, you don't need it. You just said that your need does not drive your desire to grow. But her sister, taking their 4 kids on a vacation that they never get to go on because they're saving for a house. Man, when I told her how to make the phone call, how to create it, this is something that's very good. She called her sister and the husband started crying. You would do that for us? Yeah. I mean, now when she goes and does her business, it's on a whole nother platform. Her passion went through the roof. Her acceleration in her business went big because she could also tell the people around her what she was doing with her income that had nothing to do with her, had nothing to do with bills. Let me just say this. No one likes to work for bills. I don't care if you don't have money. Working for bills does not cause passion. It's got to be something else. And the extra income you make will pay for your bills. Mm-hmm. But if you're driving your business to pay for bills, it's not going to work. It's not going to drive passion.
Gloria, I love how you keep reminding us through your stories and your experience that it's really not about us, right? I mean, I think you said earlier that for 10 years, you didn't have the strength to make the decision for yourself, but then thinking about your family and your daughter, you made the shift. And now you're saying, right, to find our passion, it's going to be about giving more, right? Your example of water, right, to the village in Africa. And I think that's just a good reminder for all of us to find something greater than us and connect it to a higher purpose. But I want to rewind because you also mentioned the seasons. And I know you're over 3 decades at the top, right? I mean, playing at the highest level that people could ever aspire to play in this channel. Yeah. And I know 3 decades plus, you've gone through some seasons. If you're willing to take us, I know you got the trophies. I know you got the medals. I know you got the trophies. Anybody that Googles you, right? I mean, #1 in one of the largest companies in the space for so long. But can you take us to a winter season? Like, was there a winter season where self-doubt was high, setbacks were high? What was it like? And what did you learn in that moment that maybe we can all get some advice from if we're in a winter season right now?
Yes. I tell people, you cannot win if you don't understand how to lose. And there was some losing times, and they weren't just in business. Like when my son was 16 years old, he's getting ready to go into his senior year of high school. He's a huge football star, doing great, but started hanging out with the wrong people. So, when your kids start hanging out with the wrong people, you immediately start blaming yourself. Like, what in the world? So I looked at him, I said, do you think mommy has all of this to lose what's most important to me? So I, in that moment, shipped him off to an all-boys military Christian academy where they pray every day at 4:30.
Okay.
He was like, woo! In that season, though, I start blaming myself. I start wondering what's going on. It was a winter season for me. But because I had mastered my income, I was able to do that, switch quickly, put him where he needed to go. From that one school, he learned how to write really well because, I couldn't teach him how to write. So he learned how to write really well. Now he's a phenomenal lawyer partner at an incredible law firm. Okay, so I just want to bring that up because sometimes those winter seasons are not with the company or not with your business. So I've had company winter seasons and I've had my own business winter seasons within the company. I remember when the company was going through a challenge and I was in a meeting and I was like, how you get deer in the headlight when you're like, oh my God, concerned, this happening, that happening. Your ability to trust in the company is a big deal. And so I sat next to a big leader and she'd been in the business for a long time and she leaned over to me. She said, Gloria, I've been here for a minute. I've seen the hills and valleys. And of course, there's always hills and there's always valleys. So just stick with it. And so that was a really big thing for me because someone who I appreciated, who had gotten way up in the company and had stick-to-itiveness, it mattered to me. Then through my own personal situation, I remember having, we build leaders, we lose them, we get upset about it. We start blaming ourselves. We start telling ourselves, well, I'm never doing that again, blah, 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 So I called somebody. They were like, give it a break and hung up on me. Because they identified that I was going through an emotional moment. Sometimes those emotional moments are justified. Sometimes they are not. So the key here, though, is who do you reach up to? Do you reach up? Do you reach over? Or do you reach down? So I always tell people only take advice from people you're willing to exchange places with.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a true entrepreneur, see, here's the thing. You don't do direct selling. You're an entrepreneur with that direct selling company.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a true entrepreneur, you can't get discouraged because of the winter season. You've got to figure out what to do in the winter season, because that's why I call myself a success strategist, because you have to strategize how you're going to move, and don't let emotions screw you up, because they will.
Thank you for just being so open, right? Because I think for all of us to hear that, like, the Gloria Mayfield Banks had self-doubt, went through some seasons, was in the valley, right? Professional, personal life. It's relatable, right? And it gives us hope. I love the way that you framed, all of that. You mentioned the emotion a couple times. What emotions do you see that get the best of all of us sometimes? Or if you look at the team and the community and the amazing, right, movement you've led, what are the emotions we need to watch out for that tend to knock entrepreneurs out of the game?
Oh, wow. Okay. So first I want to tell people that emotions many times is 80% of the problems with businesses. It's driven back to emotions of self-doubt, emotions of self-value, anger, disbelief. We can name all the emotions. What I tell people is, first, you need to know that emotional management is the one soft skill that if you get this skill, your ability to move forward is enhanced tenfold. Number two, understanding other people's emotions is really critical, because as you become a leader in this business, your job is to help other people see things and reframe things in their mind that's different than what they already know, in order to take them to a place they've never been before. Your job is to take people to a place they've never been before. That's what leadership is. And they're going to be faced with emotions. So for me, what I told people was, I really honestly believe years later, I understood the reason that I had to be challenged with domestic violence is that when people came to me with their emotions, I wasn't shifted. Because very few emotions that other people have will take me out. You can call me frustrated. You can call me with tears. You can call me with anger. I'm not going to be shifted, because I went through all those things, and I know those are short-term things that don't last. There's a time to listen, and there's a time to talk, and there's a time to be straight. So I want to tell people that most people, when they're in the midst of emotions, know it, but some people don't call them on it. So you listen and you wait until they're ready to receive the conversation. One of the things I've always said to people is, I need to be in an environment where I can speak my truth. And I need you to be in the environment where you can speak your truth. I'm not asking you for the environment for us to agree. That's not what I'm asking for. We can agree to disagree. That's not a problem, but it is a problem if I can't speak my truth, and it's a problem if you can't speak your truth. However, I am not going to be responsible for your emotional management. You can only be emotional. You can only be responsible for that. And I'm not going to carry your luggage. So if they call me and they've got the going on, let's talk, let's table this for a second. And we're going to talk back when your emotions have subsided, because every emotion subsides. Even if you're really mad at me, eventually you're going to get to a point where we can have a conversation. Where people make a mistake is that they realize someone's emotional and they continue talking with them. And it's sort of impossible to have a quality conversation and get to a quality resolution when you're emotional.
Well, let's go to the opposite side of that, right? So energy and motion, right? And we can feel that from you, right? I mean, you radiate, you transfer, right? We get this. Even if you can't see Gloria right now and you got the, earbud in your ear, I know you can feel it. Gloria, for you, have you always had that? Like, have you always had that it factor? Is the energy thing a natural gift, or is it something that you constantly work toward?
I will tell you that energy has come from my mother. Both my parents had high energy, but my mother for sure had high energy. So I truly got the gift of energy from my mother. But I will also tell you, I've worked on it. I work on my energy. I know that if you're in the people business, people are attracted to energy. They're attracted to light. They're attracted to heat. They're attracted to air conditioning. They are attracted to energy. Energy that you give and energy that you gain. And some people don't understand that. So when you walk in a room and people choose not to throw their energy, other people perceive that and they don't like it. My job is to make myself as enjoyable to people around me as I possibly can. That's my job. My job is to make myself as enjoyable as possible. Now, I don't know if I can do that for you or you or you. I don't know if you're going to like me, but it is not your job to like me. It is my job to make you perceive that I have the right integrity, the right desire, the right energy is everything, you guys. It's absolutely everything. And people who have, and it's not personality. I think people have to understand that quiet people have great energy. One of my top performers was super quiet. And as fast as I move, that's as slow as she moved. Like, girl, I know you want some. Yes. It was a totally different clothes than I had. My clothes were like, girl, you know you want this. Go ahead and get it. And totally different clothes. But she had an energy and a commitment to making other people feel better with what she had. So energy is really a lot, Blake. And I've worked at it and I've caused other people to work on it. You know, how do you want to exemplify your energy? How do you want to show your energy? How do you want to handle the mic? How do you want to greet people when they walk in the room? These are things that were worked on. I think that soft skills are required to make hard results. And I think we talk about the hard results and we talk about the skill set, but sometimes we don't master the soft skills. And energy is one of them. Emotional management is another one. There's skill sets that are required to work with people.
Well, let's keep going down that path of skills. I love what you just said, right? And I love that you said anybody can have a positive energy. And maybe to some it comes more natural, but it's something that can be learned and can be worked on and can be felt. So I appreciate all of that. Emotional management, we all are guilty of the emotional roller coaster, and every leader on this line knows that that's something we can develop and help other people with. You mentioned confidence a little while back, like that. Yeah. Let's go there. Let's say, okay, I'm minding my energy, I'm working on my emotions, but someone looks at you just glowing and go, well, Gloria has this confidence, right? Is confidence something that is one of the skill sets that you think helps? And is it something that can be learned? What advice do you give around the topic?
Yeah, I think confidence is critical. Confidence is critical and confidence is learned. And everybody has confidence in some areas. And everybody lacks confidence in some areas. Everybody does. So you can look at yourself as an adult and you can go back and you can pick times when you worked on something to become confident. To become confident in it. So when you strategize to pick where do I need to become confident, you can't gain it all at once. You can't be confident over here and over here and over here. You pick which area you need to become better at. Trust me, as a leader, I knew there were other areas that I had to become good at. I had to become good at recognition. I needed to become great at the ability to motivate. I needed to become good at being a teacher. You just don't stand up and say, I'm a great teacher. No, you become good at teaching. It's like people who say, I'm not a born salesperson. No one is a born salesperson. Everybody becomes a better person at sales because they worked at it. And if you choose not to work at it, absolutely you're not good at it. So confidence is something to be good. You become good at conversation. You become good at picking up the telephone. You become good at follow-up. You become good at understanding product. You become good at explaining the marketing plan. You become good, all these areas, you eventually become better at it over and over and over again. And I think that's one of the things we love about direct selling is because the people that have come before you had to become good at those areas. Now, there's people at the top of the ranks that are better at some things and those that are not so good at something. So you follow where they're great and you build your confidence on that. And then you look for other role models that will give you confidence in different areas. Getting confident in money management, it's a big deal. I remember going through a divorce, Lake, and I wasn't that strong at the money. I was very scared of it. In fact, I was scared. I didn't know what I was going to do. How blah, 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 blah. I brought in this woman who took my bills and put it all together. Something that I went to Harvard and I should have been able to understand, but I didn't. So she laid it all out. And after she laid it all out, she said to me, well, you can't go to the movies, you can't go to the dry cleaners, and you can't go out to eat. I looked at her and said, what are you talking about, Willis? What are you talking about? And she said, you cannot do these things until you raise this income level. She was extremely confident in an area that I wasn't confident in. And so I brought people in. I always tell people, bring people around you who are more confident in one area that maybe you don't excel at, and you're going to learn from them. But confidence is critical. It's required, actually. And growing your confidence has got to be something that's on your plate instead of what some people will say, well, I'm not that good at that. Well, that's not a way to build your confidence. The way to build your confidence is put in the second half. I'm not that good at that, but I'm going to get better. Wow. I'm not that good at that, but I'm going to get better. I'm not that good at that, but I'm going to get better. And as you get better, your world gets wider and bigger and becomes a more winning environment. You become better. You become more excited. You like yourself better when you're more confident.
I love all of that. And I love how you just gave us something so simple yet so profound, right? Just that back half of that sentence. If everybody just changes your own internal language to, but I'm going to get better right after every time we have that self-doubt, it's going to shift. Gloria, right now, it seems like it's kind of a trending conversation on this whole dialogue of self-worth. Right. And, worthy, and I am worthy. I'm curious, your perspective, is self-confidence the same thing as self-worth, or in your mind, are those different things?
To me, they're different. To me, you can become confident in certain ways. I think, although they're different, they do play off of each other. Let's be clear. They feed each other, but I think they're different. And this is the way that I see self-worth. Self-worth to me is honoring the things that you put value in. So I used to tell my team all the time, if someone comes up to you and says, why are you doing that? Blah, 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 blah. I knew somebody who blah, 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 and they didn't blah, 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 blah. What we tend to do is start explaining to people, well, blah, 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 and blah, 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 and we become defensive and our ego gets in the way and blah, blah, blah. And I always said to them, stop explaining yourself. Just look at them in the eye and smile. Don't give them any conversation back. Because if you've made the decision and you're smart enough to make the decision, then you get to figure out how that decision works for you. There's no way for them to figure out how that decision works for you until you have figured it out for yourself. And if you start explaining it, it starts to reduce in your mind your self-worth, as if you don't have the ability to make the decision yourself. That's different than confidence. Confidence is knowing what I know and what I don't know, and what I'm going to do with what I know and what I'm going to do with what I don't know. When you don't know it, you get to decide whether you're going to learn more about it or not, and what you're going to do with that. And it takes courage to build your confidence, because you're going to have to dig in areas that you're not familiar with. And growth is working in areas you're not familiar with. But that self-worth is driven to say, I deserve more, and I'm going to get more. And I'm going to find the courage to get more so I can build the confidence so I can get more. So that's how they work together in my mind.
So good. And I appreciate your perspective on all of that. It's such a timely conversation. And we need both, right? I mean, the goal of what we can do within this channel is to grow both our own self-confidence, our own self-worth, and then empower other people to do the same. And I love how you're giving us simple steps and frameworks to move forward. I want to be mindful of time, and I want to leave some time for you to share closing thoughts on anything you want that's on your mind or your heart. But before we do that, can we just do a rapid fire round? I'm going to ask you 3 questions and just like quick answers, like first thing that comes to mind. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Okay. 3 questions in 1 sentence, right? Ish. There's similar questions I've asked guests. There's no right or wrong. Just first thing that comes to your mind. But obviously, Gloria, we're talking about, shift. And you've already given us so many perspective or belief shifts just in your stories and your experience. But if you were to distill down into like one of the most significant shifts, you went from telling yourself one thing to telling yourself something else that has helped you professionally get to where you are today. What one shift comes to mind?
The number one shift that comes to mind in that is how I choose to perceive it, and my desire to bring people on because of what's in front of me. The bottom line is that there's a zillion people, and I just got to say, there's a zillion people. And so there was one time when it was a winter season, as you called it, and I was losing. And I went to an event, and they, how they play that sappy song at the end, "You're going to be great in a minute," and you start crying like, oh my God, it should be me. And I'm telling you, I went from a losing season to an incredible winning season in 4 or 5 months. The company didn't change. The product didn't change, and the rules didn't change. My mindset changed.
Wow.
And I broke a record, a big record, in a very short period of time because I changed.
I love that. And I love that every one of us can have that shift moment at any point, regardless of what's going on around us. So same question, but let's go personal life. So Gloria, as a mom, right? As a wife, as a friend, as a colleague, as a family member, what's been one of the most significant shifts that has allowed you to become who you are today personally?
It really came from my father. I tell people this all the time, that until you decide to be your best you can't be the best for other people. You can't be the best mom. You're not going to be the best wife. You're not going to be the best friend. So everyone's giving you great advice on what you should do. But until you really sit quietly with yourself and decide to bring your best, if you want to be the best for your family, for your children, for your career, you've got to learn how to be okay with being your best. And it takes a skill set and a maturity, but listening to other people's opinions all the time could really kill you. It can really kill you. So the shift I'd love people to make is to learn how to sit quietly and being able to make their own mistakes and learning from their own mistakes so they can be their best self for themselves, their family, and their community.
Beautifully put. Last one is kind of a visionary question, right? So I know you're a huge advocate of this entire channel, right, and this entire profession. Last statistic I read, I think there was somewhere around 115 million entrepreneurs, right, in the direct selling channel, all calling us ourselves different things, right? Every affiliate or distributor, or promoter, or consultant. If you had the power right here, right now, Gloria, to you could snap your fingers, you could give that smile, and instantly and immediately you could give every single one of those direct selling entrepreneurs all across the world one belief shift right now. What gift would you give them?
I would give them the belief that this industry is a real, powerful, sustainable industry. And the only reason there are doubts is because other people don't understand it yet. And although they should understand it, they don't understand it. Why they don't understand it, I don't know. But I do think that we still walk in a world where people are like, I don't understand it. And that causes too many of us to question it, versus looking at the million of people that you just said are in our industry and have proven over and over and over and over and over and over and over again that it's a phenomenal industry. And it will provide people what I think of the 4 key things is more income, more freedom and flexibility, personal growth, and strong relationships.
Gloria, this has already been such an amazing conversation. I mean, I'm sitting here scribbling notes. I mean, I love the perspective you gave us, starting with purpose and passion and the questions we need to ask ourselves to tie that to our vehicle, your perspective on entrepreneurship and where it is today and what we can do within this channel. I love that we went deep on winter seasons. You were vulnerable, transparent. We all go through it and how we can get ourselves through that. The tips on motivation, because everybody asks that question and is unmotivated at some times, and all the practical kind of frameworks and philosophy you've given us. I know this is going to be such an impact to so many people. And for everybody out there that's hung with us during this conversation, listen to this again and again and again until you absorb the energy that Gloria gave to us. Shift the belief system. And I know, right, a brighter future is in store for you. And I challenge all of you. Who was someone that came to your heart during today's dialogue? Maybe someone that's in a winter season right now or dealing with some of the things that Gloria, right, has lived through. Maybe someone right now that has a vision to become number one, right, in their company or build a massive movement like Gloria has. Whoever came to your mind or your heart, please share this show. Give the gift, right, of the shifts that Gloria gave us today. And you can share on all the platforms. You know where we are, on Apple, on Spotify, on Audible. And as a reminder, you can find today's episode and all episodes on directsellingshift.com. Please share the show. We are here to make an impact, and a shift is a gift. And you can help us grow that impact by sharing with people you care about. Gloria, thank you so much for your time and your energy today. We appreciate you and everything you've poured into us. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much, Blake. That was great. I love the shift and I love what you guys are doing. This is powerful.